When it comes to India versus Pakistan matches in T20 World Cups, using the term rivalry feels a bit much, mainly because it's a rivalry that has been so one-sided. Out of 8 matches that have been played, India won 7, with only one match ending in a loss for the men in blue. That being said, just because it's been one-sided doesn't mean that it hasn't often led to some very memorable matches in the T20 World Cup. So what we're going to do in this video is actually take a look at and summarize some of the most fun or the most memorable encounters that took place between India and Pakistan in the T20 World Cup. And to start off, let's start off with the match that actually started the rivalry in the shortest format. 2007, when India won a bowl out after the match was tied. It was a legendary match to say the least, because again, low scoring encounter. India scored 141. Pakistan in response could manage exactly the same score. So for the first time in a World Cup, you were getting to see a bowl out. Cricket's version of football's penalty shootout. And why the match is remembered is because, let's face it, very few remember what happened prior to that. But everyone remembers the bowl out where 3 Indian bowlers, and I'm being generous because Robin Thappa was one of the players who actually stepped up to bowl in the bowl out, managed to hit the stumps, and none of the Pakistani players managed to hit. With then skipper Shoaib Malik actually later saying in the press conference that we didn't even know there was a bowl out, which really begs the question, what exactly were you doing if you weren't reading the rules? Either which way, if you thought this game was memorable, then the repeat in that same year was even more memorable. 2007, the T20 World Cup final, or as it was known back then, the World T20. It was a match that went down to the wire. Remember, Pakistan needed 12 runs off the last over to actually get over the line. And when Misbah-ul-Haq managed to hit Joginder Sharma for a boundary, it did seem like it could very well be done. But then he ends up playing that shot high. Srishant takes the catch, and the rest is history. T20 cricket and the World T20 launches off into the stratosphere. The IPL is born a year later, and the sport of cricket has been dominated by India financially and in terms of success. Also, you can argue in ICC tournaments, despite the long lull, India have become the dominant force in world cricket, and all of it came down to this particular match. Well, not all of it, but definitely in this millennium, it has been one of the key reasons. Match number 3, and this one, if you're an Indian fan, you'd want to consign to the backbins of your memory. But 2021, Pakistan's one and only win came in such a commanding fashion that, again, it is one of those matches that just really epitomize what kind of a weird low India were in ICC tournaments at that point in time. It was a game that is remembered for 2 things. One, of course, Shaheen Shah Afridi managing to get rid of 2 Indian players in this opening over, therefore wrecking their chances of actually making a competitive total. And then skipper Babar Azam and vice captain Mohammad Rizwan, their opening stand, ensuring that they got over the line with 10 wickets to spare. A pretty memorable day if you're a Pakistan fan, but a match that, as I said, Indian fans would want to consign to the history books, or to the bin more importantly, because no one wants to be talking about it. But it remains a memorable match regardless. After that, of course, we have to talk about Kohli goes down the ground, Kohli goes out of the ground. 2022, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, and a situation which looked nigh on impossible as far as winning a match was concerned. Yet, those back-to-back boundaries from Kohli, which includes that 1-6, which till this date I cannot believe he managed to smash. Well, it changed the tide of the game completely. India ended up winning a rather tense game by 4 wickets, and all of it pretty much came down to Kohli turning it on when it was needed the most by the Indian team. A memorable match, and I think one of those matches which will go down in history as one of the most closest back and forth seesaw encounters between these 2 teams. Of course, what followed in 2024 was also memorable in its own right, but this was memorable because it came on such a placid, or in fact on such a tricky wicket, that it oftentimes looked like neither side was really out of the game. India didn't manage a big total whilst batting first, but Pakistan ended up taking things too deep, and perhaps the key moment came when Mohammad Rizwan, who was still at the crease at that point in time, late on, decided that the bowler he'd try and attack was Jasprit Bumrah. make that make sense. Why did you let it reach a point where Bumrah was the bowler that you had to go after? The stumps were cleaned up, and a memorable visual that everyone remembers. Bumrah was off celebrating, and India ended up winning by 6 runs. A close win, but also a very important one in that context, because again, it was one of the 1-2 punches that knocked Pakistan out of the tournament, because after this, remember, they lost to the USA as well, and their T20 World Cup hopes were shattered. So these are what we think are the 5 most memorable India-Pakistan T20 World Cup matches. You can let us know in the comments below if you agree or if you find other matches that you felt were more memorable in not just the World Cup but even the Asia Cup. And don't forget, as always, to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, X and Facebook, and stay tuned for more such updates from the world of sport.